Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the second panel discussion. The topic for this discussion is lesson learned from best and worst email experiments in 2020. As marketers, we run a lot of experiments. Email marketing success requires a lot of experimentations. Your list has diverse users. 2020 is an exceptional year. It has changed the way consumers interact with the brands, and hence, experiments are the only way brands and marketers could still be relevant. And to discuss this, we have three marketing wizards led by a panel host. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vivek Elakanan, who's the VP, Head of Digital Marketing and Strategy, Home Credit Indonesia. He's got 12 years of global experience in digital strategic planning and implementation across industries, currently heading the digital marketing for Home Credit Indonesia. His role defines the digital marketing growth strategy for managing and improving Home Credit Indonesia's digital assets like website, mobile app, social media channels, email marketing to provide direction to business from effective digital marketing campaigns to generate a better return on investment. Welcome, Vivek.
Thanks, Bala. Good afternoon, everyone.
Next, we have Mayank Singh, who's the head of marketing and technology and digital at Domino's Pizzas Indonesia. He's a passionate new age business evangelist and have led, developed, managed, scaled, and lived new age businesses and products in the past. He's a generalist, however, he loves to define himself as PPT, product, people, technology person. He enjoys building new age business by helping organizations with new initiatives and grow existing business. He is a technology lover. In past, he's been associated with companies like Z Entertainment, Domino's Pizzas India, Times, NDTV, PVR Cinemas, and more. Welcome, Mayank.
Yeah, thanks, Bala, for the introduction. And hi and namaste to all the listeners.
Wonderful. The next we have is Gopi Krishna, who's the senior manager at Flipkart. Gopi Krishna currently leads the CRM business charter at Flipkart. He has been with Flipkart for over 6 years and undertaken roles in merchandising, customer experience, payments, and product management. An MBA from IIFT, and he's also earlier worked at State Bank of India and IRCTC Internet Ticketing. Welcome, Gopi. Okay? All right. And of course, as a panel host, a consultant, sales enthusiast, marketer with a passion for customer gratification and a student of experience. He has worked in multiple verticals as an expert and marketing evangelist to enhance customer portfolio by creating data-driven marketing stories. We have with us the global head customer success, Santosh Vileshaw. Santosh, welcome, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you for the introduction of the panelists and myself. I'm very excited to be here because I have three of the finest business verticals to talk about today as far as experiments are concerned. So as you can see, a lot has been spoken. To all the listeners who've been through this session, you would have heard a lot about pre-COVID life, COVID life. We've all gone through our own set of experiences and experiments of being at home, of experimenting with your cozy corner. As you can see, my cozy corner, my children's bedroom. You would have experimented with, your wardrobe, being at home, working from home, your coffee mug. I'm sure many of you also experimented with the time of doing the dishes in at your place. So a lot has happened, right? And all these experiments have also at some point become best practice, a left-hand job for each one of us. But these experiments or these experiences have not restricted to our household experiences, right? It's been an integral part of our business strategy, the things that we do. And to talk about that today, I have three interesting categories: the consumer finance, I have the quick service restaurant business, and as well we have the e-commerce giant. So I'm covering two independent markets. I have Indonesia, which has a 23 crore population and very different nuclear families to deal with. We have India with over 123 crore population and rising. And each of these businesses playing a very different role. And there's so much that has happened so far, right? In the last 6 months itself, so much has happened. And if I were to talk to you, Mayank, how has been it different for you? I mean, what kind of experiments have you had to try for consumers like these in your sector, wherein food plays such an important role in everyday life? People staying at home, not able to move around. Did you have to do things very differently there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the situation is like that, that it cannot be a normal thing when the world is not being normal. So of course, from an experiment perspective, there are. But I have a core belief in, because you asked me a question of having how many times have you been experimenting. So I will answer it in a different way. So I personally feel that there are no secret recipes or secret sauces as you have seen in Kung Fu Panda when his father was telling him, which is also my belief. What I believe is that one is that you need to believe that things will work. The other thing is that you need to try. So when I'm saying believe, so believe and try. So the try is your experimentation, and the belief is your observation backed with the data. So with two of these points in your mind, which is backing with the data and trying with experiment, then you don't need to think of how many experiments you are doing. Then all you need to think is just go, try, and win, because the time is for survival, and all you need to do is survive and win. And the only thing that you need to keep as a takeaway from all this is to remember not the count of experiments you are running, but remember what was the learning from those, and how to improvise to do a next experiment. So that has been the key for us. I mean, I would not count how many experiments we were doing, but yeah, of course, it was the survival need that we had to do experiment and keep trying until we succeed.
Fantastic. Vivek,
Yeah,
did you have to experiment a lot? Did you do many experiments, or would you share his beliefs?
no,
To a certain
what Mayank has said. See, the number of experiment doesn't matter for us. During this crisis, they taught us a lot of new lessons. Where being in a financial service, like, okay, we cannot offer a loan to everybody, because for us the customer is like already pre-qualified. So the segmentation plays an important role for us an experiment. Like, okay, we need to think about like lockdown situation in different geographic in Indonesia. It varies. Like, okay, Jakarta has a different lockdown versus like, okay, something on the Bali. So that plays an important role on a segmentation, and the frequency we didn't even bother about it until unless we see the frequency is how many people actually open the email. We will not spam them with a repeated message. Whoever is not open the email, we will try to reconcile with a different subject line and so on.
interesting. Gopi, did you see anything different from the India context?
Absolutely, Santosh. Quite a lot, in fact. The pandemic, which initially we had to face lockdown, the situation in India, which had given us multiple challenges in terms of which all communications can we reach out to users, because there are a lot of constraints in terms of supply chain, where we can deliver only a limited set of essentials to users and not anything else. So on that front, how is our communications aligned with the business strategy? That has been a major challenge which we had to face. So our experiments and our set of campaigns that we planned during the duration, and now even now is in line with what we need to support business in those lines. When it comes to experimentations, Santosh, it is of course an ongoing thing. We before the pandemic, as well as even after, whenever it is, we will continue to keep doing experiments in the lines of what is the right quantum of messages which we can send to users, and once we determine assumably a good quantum, what is the nature of messages which that particular user will be interested in. So we, as a cross category platform, has multiple offerings from a business standpoint. So which user, for example, has shown intent in multiple categories. Within that, what is the best message? Which category do we need to reach out to users? So on these lines, our experiments are always ongoing.
Fantastic. So in the earlier session, some of the speakers, especially Priya, Monique, and Anurag, they spoke about multiple factors that impacted, email as a business. Either in the form of the measure, the metric that they want to follow, or it's more about the factors that really impact the open rate of the campaign. So for example, Priya spoke about the age and stage of customers. There was a focus on geolocation. There was a talk about how many inbox placements are we able to manage. So with all these 2, 3 different things which come into perspective, I'm sure most of the viewers and listeners would want to know what goes behind the scenes, Gopi, when you're the largest e-commerce player in India, the largest consumer segment that you're dealing with at this point in time. What goes behind planning your experiments, or even a simple campaign from the email point of view?
Sure, Santosh. So multiple things, Santosh. It largely, I would say, depends on what is the value proposition which we want to convey to the user. Like for example, I would take an example of an event. For example, big shopping days, which we will do on a timely basis. If there is such an event coming up, we would have to figure out what is the right communication which we'll need to send to the user, which will intrigue him to come to the platform explore what all deals will be there, and during the event as well. So depending on the value proposition is the starting point, I would say, to line up our experiments. And like I said earlier, experiments will of course will keep happening on to figure out what is the right quantum of messages which we'll need to send to the users, and how do we improve our performance metrics in terms of click rates, open rates, etc. In the lines of experimenting new subject lines, preview lines. What is the design elements which goes into an email? Should it be longer copy, shorter copy, brightness of the colors which we use? So on these aspects, we continue to keep experimenting.
Gopi, that was an interesting point that Anurag made in the earlier conversation, is how much is so much for a customer. So given the number of emails that we send out, and is there a quantum that you define that, okay, I will only reach out to a customer X times? Is there a best practice that you may want to follow?
Santosh, that's a very ubiquitous question, although there is no single answer to it, because it depends on the nature of user engagement on the platform. If a set of user is is showing good level of engagement and is coming back to the platform again and again, we can slightly push and experiment with slightly higher amount of emails vis-a-vis another set of users who might not be engaging as much with the platform. And as that being said, the quantum should also be an outcome of the relevance of the message. Only if we believe to a certain degree of confidence that this message is going to be relevant to the user based on his actions on the platform, it makes sense to reach out to the user. Otherwise, if it is a broad-based message, it has to be very, very minimal. The quantum should not exceed which we reach out to the users which are more engaging.
So that was an interesting take. So one is, Mayank, this one's for you. Do you believe in a slingshot email, or would you prefer a series of emails with the customers? What would work better as for you?
I think, the topic is experiment. It should be both. You need to try both, I would say. And it also depends on situation. The situation will define whether you need to do a segmented emails to several segments of the user, or you want to do a blast. So suppose, for example, as how he was talking about the big billion days would also come soon. At that point of time, I don't think they would be planning for doing a segmentation. Rather, they will plan to do a blast because they would want to reach out to more consumers. So the whole strategy depends on what kind of campaign you're going to run and what is the objective. The objective will define, would you want to do a blasting or would you want to do a segmentation?
Fantastic. And what goes behind the scenes for you when you're planning your experiments?
So I mean, one is that Domino's is quite a data-driven company. Not many people knows about it. Everyone think it's just a QSR. It's a pizza company selling pizzas, but that's not the case. I would also quote one of the statement by the ex-CEO of Domino's, Patrick Doyle, the global CEO. He once said that Domino's is a technology company happen to sell pizzas. So that's how the whole system is. So having said that, we have to deal with such situations, to plan and experimentation, you can only do when you have a complete structure. To have the structure, you need certain pillars. So for us, those important pillars are: one is your data driven, the second is the ROI focus, and the third is personalization. So these are the three pillars that we have created, and then we look into an approach towards the experimentation. Now, when you are about to go experimentation, there are normal thinking that there are normal stuff which everyone does. So the stuffs are like segmenting, then creating tracks. Tracks are with respect to your frequency, recency, basket size, interest in the product, and etc. Right?
Right.
The other is and for us is the data driven is one which will help us know what are these segments. The ROI is to measure how much is what you communicated, how much did you earn. In that, the one of the thing which we recently, I'll quote an example, which is during this period. So this is a normal stuff. You are doing a data-driven approach, but the pandemic situation requires you to do more. And for us, like being a QSR restaurant business, people come to the store and people ask for delivery. There are two kind of channels which approach. When the lockdown was announced, so the people coming to the store, of course, they will not stop coming. And the one which is left are the delivery customers, and we are trying to approach them. So the intelligent stuff or the norm or the obvious thing that one would try to do is to focus increasing their more delivery orders to make up for your carry out and the dining business loss. How to do that? In that front, so like email and the other communication channel becomes an important role, because now one side you have the data, so you can use that data. So what we started doing was we started taking that data of the delivery customers, then use the machine learning to find out the similar audiences with show similar attributes, but were not the delivery user, but a carry out user or a dining user, and started communicating them. Now, again, when I said the three pillars, the last is the personalization and the communication. In that aspect, again, if I just send them a message that, hey, why don't you order with me, it will not work. I will have to again try on personalization stuff, which is the situation was pandemic. They were never a delivery customer. They were having a fear that the corona is out there. So to convince them, I have to come up with a communication telling that the Domino's is offering a contactless delivery, where the driver would be delivering your pizza at your doorstep, but will stand 2 meters apart, wherein you can pick your pizzas with no person getting touched your pizza. After the pizza is out from the oven, it's you who would be the first person to touch it. So those kind of communication, including an offer to incentivize them, is what we tried. And that's how the approach of whole experimentation was during this period.
Fantastic. So it pretty much corroborates with Monique's point of view of the quality of list is paramount at this point in time, which would have probably helped you also therefore inbox better and therefore personalize the communication to convert them to get them to pick up the orders. Fantastic.
Like the safe food was more important for me to communicate along with the offer. So even if I say buy one get one and don't say it's a safe food, the chances of the conversion would be fair less. So that's the experiment I need to do.
Talking about that same experiment, I mean, would a buy one get one work better there, or a discount proposition work better there? Has that worked for you? Any examples there?
I mean, you're just hitting on the nail. So I mean, there are multiple things that happened during this period, and it's not just about the buy one get one would work better or a normal offer could work better. It totally impacts on the situation which you are dealing with. The situation currently was pandemic, not just because of the corona, but also because of the lockdown. There were people who were losing their job. There was a fear of economic pressure. There were certain people who had to who were laid off from the company. So that was the threat also in the market. With that threat, what would happen is the sentiment of the consumer goes away. With that sentiment going away, a brand like us, which is also taken as a celebration brand, you would want to do less of celebration and preserve your more cash. If that happens, so your chances of buying a Domino's pizza incidents will reduce. That's one. The other thing is what it impact would be the kind of ticket size you deal with. So when you do a party offer for a bigger pizzas and more pizzas, so if you're asking for buy one get one, it's 2 pizzas that would be served. We were doing buy one get 3 as an offer,
Wow.
and we thought, I mean, let's the sales is going down. Let's try with buy one get 3, and we give it for 3 days. That's the best offer we have in our kitty, and it should work. We miserably failed because later what we realized, the people were not buying buy one get 3 because the basket size was higher and the people at the home were less, and even the ticket, the UPT, which is unique product per cart transaction, was high. An offer on a single pizza was performing much better than a buy one get one or a buy one get 3. So these were the learnings over the course. But what we realized after we communicated the offer and then seeing the market, and then we have to ask those questions to ourselves: why this didn't work? So now buy one 3, that's the best offer. Why didn't it work? So I need to question it. The question's answer would come from the data that what's working in the market right now. What are the products which we are selling? How much is the UPT, which is unique product per transaction? So those are the metrics then you need to see, and then again you have to come up with your next level of plan. That's why I said the 3 pillars is what we follow. The last thing is that you need to keep the learning in the mind and then improvise.
Fantastic. Vivek, I'm sure you would have seen a similar or
Yes.
extreme situation with people experiencing the fear of losing the job and having that threat factor. How did you engage with these customers using email? What did you do differently?
So that's where, like, okay, once the lockdown is announced, so we had a couple of challenges. Like, okay, one is the government has announced for the payment holiday. So this was the one thing we need to consider. The other thing is the market sentiment, where the people are losing out jobs and they have a loan where they cannot repay it. So these are the situation we have considered on that. So strongly, what we did on while doing the experiment is like strongly we have selected the A++ and A+ segment. So rather than going to reaching out to the wider audience who are eligible, so we did a small portion like who has like okay good track value with our credit score and so on. So we did these segment, and with this segment we have come up with a personalization. So the contents plays an important role. During the pandemic and lockdown, there are no malls are being open, no restaurants being open, so we cannot talk to them with the leisure activities since the travel is completely banned across the country and outside the country. So we need to make sure that the content is more relevant and make sure these content has been diverted to the online marketplace like a Tokopedia or Bukalapak, so on, where the people can still purchase the product by selecting our payment services. So that plays an important role. And also in the meantime, we have strongly developed a product which is completely available through our mobile app. So the call to action plays an important role on the experiment. So where previously we used to send these people to the store locators and or an online marketplace, now we have changed it to our mobile app. So mobile app where we treated as like okay the customer acquisition channels. So then we built a product during we released a product on April. So where the entire onboarding process and the customer can avail the financial product completely through our mobile app. So that has taught us a lot of customers downloading our app and becoming a customer again.
Fantastic. So if I hear you guys correctly, I think one common thing that is coming out very clearly is the focus on the list that each one of us is bringing together. The second is the level of personalization that we're moving towards and how it becomes far more relevant content. Gopi, how would you have used the personalization side for some of your email engagement campaigns?
Santosh, we every communication that we send, we have there's a continuous quest in terms of how to make it more personalized. For example, I would say if we are doing a campaign on mobiles, mobile phones is one of the categories which users buy on Flipkart. Even after a user has shown interest in buying mobiles through various signals, browse behavior or search behavior on the platform, we keep testing, and the goal is to get as personalized as possible, to the extent of knowing which particular model is the person more likely to buy. Again, that ranges from that comes from using various signals which the user has left on the platform, or maybe the which device which the user is using his app from. So using these signals, we keep experimenting, and we have a model which gives us which is the best message which we'll need to reach out to the user. So once we have those curated list of messages which a user will be eligible to, this being a starting point, we again, within a curated list of content that we have for that particular user, depending on the goals that we want to drive, metrics which we want to drive, the model can decide that out of 4 or 5 messages which a user might be eligible to, this is the best message at this context, depending on the time and day of the week, etc. This message should reach out to the user. So to that level, personalization is the key, and we do various experiments which shows that the more personalized it is, the better long-term health as well as the short-term metrics we get. Whereas, in fact, even Mayank pointed out earlier that there are use cases for broad-based messages as well, which I completely agree with Mayank. Like a particular sale is coming up or so, we definitely have to communicate that event to all the users on a broadcast basis. But even when we have a message to convey to all the users, we kind of find ways to be as relevant as possible, like showing to the user that if a user has shown intent in mobiles, that being the lead, show a message to that user that hey, Big Billion Days is coming up, and there are these mobiles deals available. Hey, Big Billion Days is coming up, hey, there are these lifestyle or fashion which that user might be interested in. So to that level, even if there is a broadcast message, how do we make it as relevant and engaging the user? That's the goal.
Fantastic. So there are so many elements in when we plan an email campaign, right from the list to the subject line that you use, to the content that you plan, to perhaps the shading you have on the email, to the call to action that you want to publicize, to the landing page that you want to bring about these customers. Given these 6 to 8 different options, what are some of the key factors that you consider while planning your experiment? I know we're talking about experiments, so there would be many. But if you were to choose top 3 or top 4 out of these, what would it be for you when you plan your next futuristic or have already done a campaign in the past as an experiment? What was the key measure for you, keeping these factors in mind? And how did you go about planning it? If there are any examples, I think our listeners would love to know about that.
Okay. On a campaign level basis, Santosh, the experiments, I would like to give an example of a campaign which we had run during lockdown, 21 days of safe living. That was unexpected that during that time that will be a long duration of lockdown where most of the commerce was also not allowed in the country. So that time we have reached out to users with a campaign called 21 Days of Safe Living. That has nothing to do with commerce. We reached out to users with some ideas where they can take a cue from and spend their day. Examples like take an hour off and listen to some old music, or why don't you learn a musical instrument or etc. So in those lines, that campaign is that was again a very ad hoc campaign which we had come up with, and it did wonderfully well. In those lines, what we have learned during that campaign was that campaign again was very simple in nature. It did not have too many banners inside the email. It was very light and only 2 or 3 lines of message. But still, driven by the nature of the message, the interaction, the engagement has been quite good. We got good response on social media as well, not just in terms of clicks and opens, but that has been a good learning where we took the message, and even after we opened up commerce, we did test multiple emails which are very simple, which are having maybe 1 or 2 banners inside the email, and even they did well. So in terms of the nature of the message, the size of the message, etc., we that experiment has given us good learnings, and we kind of are taking forward those learnings even later as well.
Fantastic. It also seems to have an uncanny resemblance to what Priya spoke about for the PhonePe campaign, where they actually touched upon the pulse of the customer and made a difference. And somehow the engagement, non-transactional element of the engagement stood out more than the commercialization of things. It's not just about making money. We also want to stay connected with you, dear consumer. I think that's fantastic. Vivek, there's anything that stood out for you in any of your experiences here?
See, that's what during the 6 month we did one of the experiment and trying out on the subject line. Okay, so we went with a shorter character limit to the longer character limit, and during the 3 months, and we have come to notice that the character limit above 60 has a better open rate and better open to click-through rate. So this is like, we thought like a shorter word, like even in the previous conversation, they were mentioning about the subject line with a shorter has a better open rate. But when we go with a better personalized subject line, even a longer character limit has helped us to drive open rate compared to the shorter text one. And not only the open rate, for that particular long tail subject lines, we have a better open to click through rate as well. So where we have seen this, and this is an experiment which we did it on during this pandemic, and which really given us an eye opener to see that, okay, that is good. Like, okay, if we go personalized with a long tail key subject line, it is actually working out better.
So when we planned this personalization, Vivek, was it more about the name personalization, the product personalization, the offer personalization? Did you try prefixing or suffixing information over here?
So it is more towards like, okay, we are majorly like, okay, as Mayank said, like, okay, Domino's is not a restaurant business. It is completely a data driven company. And even Home Credit, like we are not a financial service. Like, okay, we are a risk management company. So it is completely a data-driven company. So we profile the data based on the various customer touch points, and we understand like, okay, how long the customer has been with us, what are the purchase product he has purchased in throughout like last 2 years. So what will be his way of interest, and we select those things and we offer them in a better way. Like, let's say like he bought a phone 2 years before. Then we will go with them like, okay, it is the right time to change your phone with 0% EMI with Home Credit. So we go with these personalized message, irrelevant like, okay, on subject line, definitely if the name is shorter, okay, Indonesian names are like, okay, too longer, and they don't even like, okay, that their name will be different and the calling name will be a different. So that will be a challenge over here as well. And more towards like what kind of a personality they are, and we target those relevant communication on the subject line. So it really worked out for us, like, okay, built a better open rate.
Fantastic. Mayank, you were saying something. I cut you earlier on the same topic.
No, I was not saying anything. I was just, it was completely interesting to hear from an Indonesian peer about specifically with respect to the name. The name of being such a large three-letter word, which normally most of would have, and they would have a different name, which is the calling name, which is not their name. So, which would be something from their name which they create, and that becomes their nickname to be called. So, people will refer them with that name. So, their email name is different to what their the call name, and that's where it becomes difficult, which is he rightly pointed out. But the interesting point which I was hearing from him, that 60 character limit of personalized email which he was talking about sending, because we tried putting name in the email as an experiment. Failed. I mean, nothing happened. There was no result for me to take or quantify that it was a good campaign for me. But I was surprised to hear that the 60 character limit is something which worked. And I was just thinking from my perspective that even if you're watching the mobile on email on your mobile, the space is too less. So he would not read full. Is it one way? I mean, that's why I'm thinking it loud. Could this experiment be seen from this perspective, because it's longer, and so the last point is more exciting, and the story starts from the first. So it becomes like curiosity to see what's the full subject. They end up clicking it. That could be one of the points that I don't know what learnings Vivek would have got, but this is something interesting as a learning and a takeaway for me, and of course for many of the listeners.
Yeah, even I buy that, because our almost 91% of our audience traffic is coming from mobile device. So that curiosity has made them to open the email. And the other thing is, like, not only the open rate is increased, the open to click through rate. Okay, so the relevant of the content is marrying with the email creative as well. So that has given them the opportunity. Even the CTR has been increased for us.
This is interesting. I'll definitely try this. Another experiment which goes into my kitty to try.
Gopi, any thoughts on this? Does long characters work for you as well?
Yes, Santosh, we did debate that a lot. We experiment on that piece a lot. Like I said, again, it depends on the kind of communication which we want to send out to. Certain cases, we see longer text works, but most of the cases these days, it is, I think, the time of being crisp and short. So we see good traction in messages where we use as less message as possible, as less content as possible, and also sometimes some part of the message is encrypted. Even that, for example, not disclosing the deal completely, but using XX in the numbers. So that kind of messages also need very good clicks. Santosh.
Fantastic. So one market says long subject line works. One market says it could work. But Gopi, do you also see the same adoption on your mobile? I mean, would you agree that majority of your email traction is happening on mobile handheld device and not desktop? Or is it different?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. In fact, it is closer to what Vivek has said. So the majority of the traffic is interacting on mobile. We ensure that we check doubly sure that all the links that we send in an email open up and render well on the mobile device. In fact, that is a starting point, and desktop is a secondary. In fact, we start with mobile in all our campaign planning as well as design, etc. Mobile is the starting point.
Fantastic. So if I have to listen to what Priya had to say, she spoke about age and stage, is exactly what is coming across from Vivek, what you had to say, that we look at the customers, how long have they been in the system. So it's amazing how great minds think alike. All of you happen to be in the same thought process and the aura. If you guys had to talk about some of your most amazing, either successful or the most failed experiments, which one would it be that you want to share with the audience today?
Okay. Yeah, Mayank, please.
Yeah, so I mean, so I'll go back to the starting of the discussion when you had this question of blast email or a targeted email. One of the experiments which I did during this lockdown specifically, I would not say it's a successful experiment, but it was not even bad, and it was a blasting email experiment. And what I was trying to do was blasting not just one, two those every day, morning and evening. Yep, I was doing that blast. Now the point is that people would say that your unsubscribe would increase. My unsubscribe didn't increase, so I was safe on that front. What it was actually communicating to them, because the Corona lockdown started. People were advised to sit at home, so we used that as a mechanism, and we started communicating in the morning. Thanks for being. So today is the be safe at home. Don't go out. Enjoy Domino's delicious pizza at 50% discount. Evening, we used to again thank you for staying at home, and you should be enjoying the Domino's pizza with the next offer. Delicious pizza is waiting for you. So this way, the morning and evening, we set it a time to tell them that you don't need to go out. In the evening, we used to thank them that thanks you didn't went out. So that's the experiment which we tested. So, and I was blasting it. So my success on this was that my unsubscribe rate didn't went high. It didn't even, so it was not that I would say that I would have stopped it. In terms of communication, and because that as a message I wanted to reach it out, it reached and it got registered. Some of my friends, they called me and said that I saw your mail which was talking to us about staying at home and enjoy the delicious pizza. I like it. So, so I would say that from that perspective, the recall was there.
Fantastic. Vivek?
Yeah, from our side, okay, we clearly said that the experiment which has taught us is like, okay, one is the subject line, which is an eye opener, and the next thing is like, okay, as we never used to schedule any time, perfect time for sending an email. So whenever we segment the data, the eligibility criteria is there. We used to draft, yeah, we used to push the emails, and we just look into the deliverability. But when you deep dive into the data, and when we see that this year, like first 6 months, where we see that actually like, okay, time range between 11:30 to 1 actually works for us, whereas open rate is increased and the click-through rate is one increased, and the second one is Tuesday works for us. So which we never thought in that, okay, in our industry, like, okay, for this 6-month period, like, okay, for 6 months every Tuesday the open rate is like, okay, 2x compared to the other days. So that day it is better, and the time zone is like between like morning 11:30 to the like 1 p.m. So this actually given us like a lot of learnings to our experiment, and maybe the thing is like we should avoid sending emails on the weekends or on the late night, which never, it will not work out for us.
Fantastic. Gopi, this one's for you. Given the volume and the quantum of emails that go out from your side, how important is the unsubscribe as a metric in your business? I think I lost you for a minute. Gopi, can you hear me?
Santosh, sorry, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So the question to you is that given the quantum of emails that go out from Flipkart today, how important is unsubscribe or as a metric for you, for your line of business today?
Absolutely, Santosh. It is very critical, and in fact, like you said, given the quantum of emails which we send, that is one of the very core metrics which we track very regularly. Of course, it is very easy to get into measuring click rates, open rates at a campaign level, but to actually gauge the holistic health of the channel, I think as long as we ensure the domain and IP reputation is good, that is of course should be there as the basic. And then we think the most important thing to measure is unsubscribes as well, because unsubscribes will give us an indicator on two aspects, which is one on the quantum of emails that we send, and second, the relevance of the emails. If the users feel even if the quantum is higher than what they are okay with, or they think the relevance is not there in the messages, they are likely to unsubscribe. So which is why measuring unsubscribes is a very important metric. And of course, what this leads to also an important metric of the size of engaged audience, which means the quantum of people who are interacting with our emails in the last 7 days, 1 month, and 3 months. So this is also something which we keep a track on very closely.
So this, from our viewers and listeners' perspective, are there any type of campaigns that you all have seen which impact the unsubscription rate, and that they should caution themselves from that? Any advice for our listeners today? What not to do?
Yes. The thing is, we plan it in a way that we will not spam them. Like, okay, the more interacting to the emails, like we will target them in a different way. Let's say if we are going with sending in 1 million emails, and around 15% of the emails are being opened, and remaining, like, okay, it has not been opened, we will try out with a different subject lines, so that, like, okay, there is a higher chance of people are getting opened. So we will not target the people again who already opened. So make sure that, okay, we will give enough timeline for the same offer, or if come back with a different product or a different offer to target them. So that way we maintain the strong unsubscription rate. And also we look on to the during the unsubscription, we try to get the feedback of the customer why they are unsubscribing that. So this we will take it into a consideration, like while doing the campaign measurement.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Man, any thoughts on that?
So as I said, I mean, from the perspective of unsubscribe, I would say just do a small set of experiment and see how it works. Like I said, that I was bluffing, and so that's the risk you need to take. At the same point, then you need to also plan it out that if it is going south, then what do you need to do to bring them north? So that's the part of experiments. You have to try it out. Unsubscribe, I would say that it's not, people know that there is an unsubscription, but not everyone actually try to play with the unsubscription. At the end of the day, unless you are too much of annoying in terms of your communication and it's not making sense, only then people would end up and say that I would want to unsubscribe this brand. Otherwise, if the content is relevant and it is of their interest, they would not go for an unsubscription, and that unsubscription only happens for few set of customers who want to keep their inbox clean. So that percentage is low. So when the percentage is low, so it gives you an opportunity to do more experiments.
Fantastic. My 2 cents on unsubscription is, I think for all the listeners, what we should do is keep a check on what is the average ticket size of my consumers today, and every single unsubscribe is an annual revenue loss. Therefore, if that is a checkpoint, then we need to be cautious about the ideal nudge strategy with the customers, which brings me back to the point that all our 6 speakers have spoken of: getting the list right, getting the relevance and personalization right, and getting the ideal nudge into perspective. The better you inbox, the quality of your content, the subject line, whether 60 or 45 characters, be relevant, bring the right personalization up front. It could be the name, it could be the offer. Experiment more, fail faster, improvise, and keep going ahead. It's been a fantastic learning curve from each one of you guys today. Thank you so much. Bala, I know I have a time check. And if you have any questions, I think the team is ready to take them on.
Right. Absolutely. First of all, wonderful session this was. Thank you very much, Gopi, Mayank, Vivek. Very insightful. I guess we did see the best and the worst email experiments there. And Mike, I got to tell you, some of the messages that you said, I really want to go and have my pizza right now. Okay, that is that tempting now. All right, but before that, yes, we do have some of the questions. Santosh, again, how can I forget thanking you? Wonderful questions there, really well done there. And we have some more questions, of course, waiting for these folks. One for Gopi. Have so since we have less time, we'll kind of keep one question for each, and then we kind of wrap it up because there are people. Once we kind of end the session, we'll have other folks to kind of take it up at the backstage too. So quickly on this, Gopi, for you, this is top three. What are the top three successful product categories for you during the COVID period from CRM perspective at Flipkart? And what are the success metric opened and clicked, and also which channel works the best among email, SMS, push, website for Flipkart during the sale days?
We keep using multiple channels to reach out to users for any single category. So not distinguish that people are like by pattern or click on image versus particular audience. So that kind of strategy is not something which we use, but it is more of a holistic view from a customer standpoint. As in, if there is a message to communicate to the user, to be leverage multiple channels to land the point that user. So on those lines, email is a much has a larger canvas to show the message where multiple offers or the new that in that. Whereas the push notification, the message has to be very the single line which they is on the screen. So each channel has its role to play, and it has to be involving multiple.
Perfect. Your line was a little choppy there, but so much I understood that every channel has its own plus and minuses, and predominantly email did work the most, followed by push. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I kind of got that information. Now we got another question. Okay, just a minute. Okay, this maybe Vivek, Mike, one of you guys could take it up. How can you maintain the quality of the list in commercial emailing when all the competitors have similar lists and send similar content? If you are the only one to following good manners, doesn't seem to be making a difference. It's from Jose as a delivery manager. Want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can you maintain the quality of the list in commercial emailing when all the competitors have similar lists and send similar content? If you are the only one following good manners, it doesn't seem to make a difference.
No, I mean, the list can be common. It depends on how you are going to use it, the way you are going to segment it, the way the communication you are going to make it. How are you going to make those communication more relevant? The kind of time you would be reaching them, approaching them. Are you making them part of a CLM program or a track? Would be completely different. It cannot be same with the competitor. The list being common does not mean that. I mean, you would have to think of that you being sane and other one is being exploiting would make an impact. If you are being sane into the market and they are doing the right practice, I think the customer is gonna love it, and he would not want to unsubscribe you, which was the question which we were discussing before. So the important aspect is that you don't need to worry about the competitor. You need to be focused on what you want to do. That's the important key.
See, what if I want to add it to what Mayank said is that just an email ID is a common. So the personal the data which we have is like will be different with the competitor. Like okay, maybe like okay, my customer will be still following like Domino's Pizza also, but the data as personalization and the viewership of that particular data will be different for Domino's versus the what we have home credit to offer. So when we are going more on the personalization to the customer, the having the same email ID with the competitor or any other business doesn't matter.
Yeah,
absolutely. When they say two brands have the same list, Well, that makes me question someone did a bad job there, right? So anyways, we do have some more questions, guys, but I think we already kind of showed the time much higher here. All right, but let's kind of wrap things up. Thank you very much, Gopi, Mayank, Vivek, and of course Santosh. Really appreciate your time today. Wonderful session. Okay, and this particular session again, guys, there's a lot of learning we kind of got from all the folks here, and I'm sure you guys are engaging. I see a lot of tweets and engagement that is actually happening in social media too. Really appreciate you kind of keep continuing that. There's a lot of prizes to be won there. So keep that particular thing going. And right now we'll wrap this particular session, come to the end note, and then we kind of go to the backstage and start taking up some of the questions there. So Mayank, Vivek, and Gopi, please stay back. People have a lot of questions. You can actually chat to them, or you can be on the table and talk to them and help them answering their questions. Right?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Santosh, once again. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, everyone.